From New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. It is great to have you here on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How you doing today on this Friday?
I am happy. It's always happy it's Friday.
Yeah, no, it's great. Weekend's coming along.
Yeah.
Summer's quickly approaching.
Yes.
So I'm very, very excited. We got a lot to talk about. Let's jump right into the show because we have some breaking news. This was coming. We've known this news for about the beginning of the week when it came out that Darvin Ham will most likely not make it to the end of the week, and he did not because earlier today the Lakers announced that they have fired Darvin Ham after only 2 seasons, with GM Rob Pelinka releasing this statement. We greatly appreciate Darvin's efforts on behalf of the Lakers and recognize the many accomplishments achieved over the past 2 seasons, including last year's remarkable run to the Western Conference Finals. We all want to thank Darvin for his dedication and positivity. While this was a difficult decision to make, it is the best course of action following a full review of the season. Now, Darvin Ham, not a horrible record, 90-74. That's not terrible, but where it really gets bad is the playoff record, under 500, 9-12, and then the last 2 seasons, while he did make it to the Western Conference Finals last year, still couldn't beat the Denver Nuggets. You go into this year, and you got swept last year, nearly got swept, gentleman's sweep this year, losing 4-1. But I want to know, are you surprised that the Lakers decided to part ways with Darvin Ham after only 2 seasons?
Not really. LeBron James was not happy at the end of the season here when they got knocked out by the Nuggets. It was clear he's unhappy. I'm sure they had a talk with him, and he probably said, probably should go for another new coach. I'm not sure who they're going to get. I mean, actually, as you say, Darvin Ham didn't do so bad. 90-74, 2 years remaining on his contract. They fired him. He took over from Vogel, who was fired after 3 seasons.
Did win an NBA Finals, though.
He went to the. They did win an NBA Final.
The bubble year. Yeah,
the bubble year was kind of an odd time to win a final, I think. But really, right? I mean, that was odd. It was odd, but they did win it, and under Vogel, so he has that a feather in his cap. I think that's the only time he won a championship, right? As a head coach, Vogel. Yeah. He's in it. They still in it now? Vogel? No, he was the coach of the Phoenix Suns. Yeah, and they got wiped out.
Swept by the Timberwolves.
So anyway, they did go to the Western Conference Finals last year. They got swept by the Nuggets, but the Nuggets, they're the best team in the NBA, and they got unlucky enough to be the number 7 seed and face the Nuggets, how they wound up as a 2 seed, I don't know. But I would have thought they would have been number 1, and as you said, it was a gentleman's sweep. They did win the in-season tournament. Right? They went 7-0, but after that, they fell apart. They went 12-17 after that. They wound up 47-35, had to win 11 of 14 to get to the 7th seed, and beat out the Pelicans for that at the end of the season. So there was an up-and-down season for them. They started great. They fell apart. LeBron James, 26.4 points, 57% field goal percentage in that in-season tournament, which was really good. He averaged 25.7, 8.3 assists, 7.3 rebounds in 35 minutes. Played 71 games this year, is the highest since 2017-18. He's not retiring. He's coming back, and I bet he comes back to the Lakers. Why wouldn't he? It's Los Angeles. It's in addition to the Celtics, I think it's probably they're the 2 highest profile teams in the NBA, and he's not going to go play for some team that's not high profile. I'm sure he's hoping that the Lakers will draft his son so they can play together, but he's around. I bet he plays another 2-3 years maybe. I mean, why wouldn't he? Look at those numbers. They're good. They just got to put more around him. Anthony Davis, he had a good season, right? He played 76 games.
The most games, I believe, in his entire career.
LeBron, 71, Davis, 76. It makes you wonder why they didn't do better. But playing the Nuggets in the first round, that's a tough draw. If they gotten any other draw, maybe they would have gotten to the second round.
Well, I think a lot of people thought that if the Lakers beat the Nuggets in round 1, that they'd be basically primed to maybe make a deep playoff run, at least make the Western Conference Finals. Darvin Ham's tenure, though, did not really end very well because after the loss, on record, which is not great, He basically got quoted by ESPN by saying, the thing that frustrates me, and I love this job, I love the pressure that comes with it, I've always been calm in the midst of chaos, but common sense tends to go out the window when you talk about my job in particular. Then he continues by saying, it's amazing how people just skip the core part of having a consistency with your lineup is all predicted on health and performance. If you're coaching a team and one of your starters is like 10 games in a row just crapping the bed, he actually used the expletive though, what are you going to do? Calling out players in particular, and that's actually after Anthony Davis took a shot about how they just haven't been able to really, figure out what to do. And kind of talking about how bad Darvin Ham's coaching is. And you know what? He has had a problem with that, getting the right starting lineup. They had 19 starting lineups this year. He could never figure it out. Substitutions were terrible. You had to rely on Taurean Prince as well as Austin Reeves and even sometimes D'Lo. D'Lo is inconsistent. He's basically, we talk about the injury history of Anthony Davis, where one game he's there, another game he's not. That's basically D'Lo on the court. One game he's there, but most of the time he's out. It's like Kirk Cousins in prime time. At 1 p.m., fine. Any other game, not great. That's D'Lo for you. One game he's great, the other game he's god-awful. So rotations, substitutions, and starting lineups were a massive problem. And now you're calling out your player. And this was actually before he got fired. This quote came out before he got fired. I believe this was April 30th. So you're already calling out your players before you're fired. You kind of know your tenure's over. But I will say, though, the interesting candidates to be the next head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers.
I'm wondering about those. I can't think who they're going to get. Who is out there that you can get?
Well, the ones that have been, supposedly rumored to be candidates are Mike Budenholzer, Bucks head coach, used to be the Bucks head. Kenny Atkinson, who used to coach the Brooklyn Nets before I think Steve Nash came in there, and Jacques Vaughn and all those other coaches. Also, this is going to be an interesting one, J.J. Redick.
J.J. Redick,
ESPN. Then he has a podcast with LeBron James. And this one, if he becomes available, Ty Lue. Now, obviously, I think it's unanimous that Ty Lue would be the number one candidate, but the chance that Ballmer's going to let him go is basically a 0% chance, and it actually came out before the show started that they're actually working on an extension for Ty Lue. Not a shot you're going to get him to be your head coach.
Yeah.
I would think the next best one you'd probably say is Budenholzer, because he's had probably the most success.
I bet he has a really good chance to get the job.
And you also have to wonder that based on the connection that there's a couple also rumor ones like Jared Dudley, who is close with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, as well as Denver assistant David Adelman and also Minnesota assistant coach Mike Onori. They're both highly regarded within the Lakers organization. They could be potential ones. And also another coach, Terry Stotts, he was also part of their search before they got Darvin Ham. So he could be another one that could be included in this. What I find fascinating, and this report came out, that they actually were this close to getting Ty Lue, but due to contractual sort of disagreements between the Lakers and Ty Lue, they ended up going with Frank Vogel. So imagine, 2019, you got LeBron James. You also pair him up with Ty Lue, coach when he was with the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's a perfect combination there. Instead, contractual, mishaps, and lo and behold, you're stuck with Frank Vogel. You did win the bubble championship. But I think this is basically saying, and we also saw a report earlier this week that Jeannie Buss is willing to give LeBron James the max 3-year, I think it's $164 million extension.
He's coming back for that.
I would definitely say he'll probably.
Why wouldn't he? He's playing great.
He'll probably not take his option and then try to sign the max extension.
I mean, he doesn't look like he's changed at all in terms of his physique or anything. I mean, he looks like
spend millions of dollars on keeping himself
in shape, and his stats. Maybe not what they were when he was at the very top of his game, but when he was at the very top of his game, he was one of the best ever.
Yeah.
So having somebody on your team that can score 26 points a game, have eight assists and 7 rebounds, and play consistently 35 minutes a game, and be healthy for 71 games out of the year when you're 39 years old, I'd give him another try, even if it was for 3 more years. Why not?
I mean, it's not a horrible thing, but you have to realize his age. He's already talking, like he's hinted at retirement, saying that he doesn't want, a last dance like Jordan had. But I think he's always said he wants to play with 2 people in his career. Steph Curry, that ain't going to work unless you go to the Warriors. Curry's not moving for nobody. And then your son, Bronny James.
Yeah.
Now, the chances that the Lakers draft Bronny James as an incentive piece to keep him, I think that is now very, very high because LeBron James is more hinting at retirement. Now, he came out and said that he's still not fully decided on what he's going to do with his career, but I just think if you look at his body language, the tone towards the end of the season, you could kind of tell he's definitely
When's
on his
the
last
NFL
legs.
draft? I mean, the NBA draft. When is it?
I'm not sure. It's coming up, though. I definitely know that.
Yeah, so maybe he waits and sees where
Let's
his
see.
son winds up before he accepts the Lakers' offer.
Well, that's going to be that. That.
But I don't think he'll get a max offer like
June
that
26th.
elsewhere.
June 26th.
June 26th. So he can wait it
About
out.
a month and
He
a
can
couple
wait
weeks.
and see where his son gets drafted and then make his decision. I bet he'll go back to the Lakers, though. Again, as I said, they're one of the top franchises.
Oh, absolutely.
Lakers Celtics. That's kind of the NBA.
100%.
And it's in Los Angeles, right? Big, huge
Massive
market. I'm sure
yeah.
he makes a ton of money outside of basketball out there, right? And then the offer, max contract. Well, why wouldn't he take it? I mean, maybe the Lakers will find a way to trade for Bronny James if he gets drafted by somebody else.
I don't.
Huh?
Not a chance.
I mean, LeBron wants to play with his son.
You're right.
You don't think the Lakers are going to try to make an effort to make that happen?
Well, it depends on
To
when
keep him happy.
I mean, what we've seen is that we see a lot of people saying he can go undrafted. We've heard at the very
Really?
beginning,
Could go
top 10
undrafted?
pick. Yeah, he's single
I
digits
don't believe
in every
it.
category.
I don't believe it.
Then the team
Somebody's
will
going to
overdraft.
draft him.
Overdraft completely. But I will say though, like, what's LeBron James's end game here? Is he still trying to win championships? Now, obviously, you'll say that. But, making it to the playoffs, yeah, that's great if you're an up-and-coming player. Luka making it to the playoffs, great. Tyrese Maxey making it to the playoffs, great. You got to start winning series now. Now, last year, you did make it to the Western Conference Finals.
That's pretty good.
That's phenomenal. You got swept by the Nuggets, though, because the Nuggets are the best
They
team
were
in
on
the
a
NBA.
mission. They
Absolutely.
were on a mission.
And I think it's really unfortunate in Darvin Ham's case where you had, in the first round of the playoffs, you battled to stay in the play-in. You dominate in the play-in tournament. And your first matchup is against the defending champions. Against the and think about this too. And this is where I think just the lack of continuous drive, which I think could be a combination of players' lack of motor and motivation, determination, and also where coaching comes into play. The Lakers led for 69% of the series. That's how long they were in the lead for. In game 2, they were up by 20 points in the fourth quarter, and they somehow lose that game. That's bad. That's very, very bad. And we saw in the first half of most, if not all of these games, the Lakers were clearly the better team. And then, like I mentioned last week, I think, the Nuggets, all they do is just chip away and chip away. And then the fourth quarter, 6 minutes left, oh my God, all of a sudden the Nuggets are in control of this game. And then Jokic and then Jamal Murray also, just two daggers to send him away. I mean, that is heart-wrenching.
That's part of the reason why Darvin Ham got fired.
Right.
They could look at that and say the coaching was a part of the issue.
I think it also is. There's been some weird coaching adjustments here. I mean, what we see with the Bucks, who just lost to the Pacers in 6. You got rid of Adrian Griffin. He was 34-13, I think. I think it was 37 or 34-13. And you get over to Doc Rivers, who I think went 19-22. I mean, what are we thinking here? Just because you lost a little bit of faith?
Giannis has health issues this year.
That is true, and also Dame was out for a portion of it. But still, though, during the regular season, it looked like, who the hell are the Bucks? The Bucks are supposed to be good. They have so many good players. They have such a good culture
I'm
now.
very surprised.
And then you get beat by a young, athletic, and super mobile, high-scoring, high-flying
You think
offense.
Doc Rivers will be with them next year?
Losing record, culture looks like crap. I would go no. I would not, because look at what he did. Losing record.
Did they sign him for just 1 year?
I believe it. I believe it's just like a 1 year thing. So
he's had some tough luck, Doc Rivers, lately.
Yes.
I mean, I think he's a little tarnished now.
Well, with the 76ers, and then he goes from broadcaster, and then in the same season, year 1 broadcaster, he goes directly into being the head coach of the Bucks, and it's not great. So to answer the question, I'm not surprised, because we heard this report coming from a mile away. The way that the Lakers, we saw the playoff game. If they lost this playoff game in horrible fashion like they did last year, and while they did make the Western Conference Finals, you get swept by the Nuggets. This time you get gentlemen swept. And also a lot of people complaining about rotations, substitutions, starting lineups. It's not a good look. If you have that many questions, and also if Anthony Davis talking about how good of a coach he is and the lack of coaching and questioning his coaching ability, I mean, AD is the second best player on the Lakers. If you have players questioning how you're coaching, and then and then you also come out and say that one of your players for 10 straight games is crap in the bed, I mean, you're not hearing Ty Lue saying this. You're not hearing Eric Spoelstra come out and saying this type of stuff. So it's unfortunate, but if you don't win, like in most, if not any sport, if you don't win, you're gonna get fired. Sports are about winning. You don't win enough, and especially in the big time moments like the playoffs, you're not gonna have a job for very long. All right, let's get into our next topic of today's show. The Knicks have advanced to the Eastern Conference semifinals after Josh Hart hit a beautiful three-pointer late in the game, about 30 seconds left, in order to put the Knicks up by 3, and then the final score ended up by 118-115 in favor of the Knicks. Jalen Brunson joins Bernard King with the most consecutive 40-point playoff games in Knicks history with 4. He was on an absolute tear, especially after the first 2 games where it looked like he was completely lost. He was shooting sub 20% from the floor, and now all of a sudden he catches a hot streak. Embiid fouls out in this game. This was a hell of a series, down to the wire, but I want to know, what was your reaction to last night's thriller?
Knicks did what they had to do. They went down to Philadelphia and won that game. And they started out really hot. They were up 41-23, and I'm sorry, I got the wrong sheet here.
That's fun. Because they were up by 22 early in the game. They ended the first quarter 36-22, and then the second quarter they just absolutely fell apart. 76ers outscored them 32-15. They completely flipped the game around. So while you sort your papers, I'll give my take.
Thank you.
So I really, really enjoyed the Knicks' performance here because they did a lot of things right. You open up the game, you go on an absolute tear. Dante DiVincenzo hitting 3 straight threes, setting the tone. Hartenstein in 4 minutes. In 4 minutes in the first quarter, the first 4 minutes, he had 4 points, 3 boards, and a single block. And by the way, all those rebounds were all offensive rebounds, giving the Knicks second chance opportunities, which they let in this game. Second chance points were 27 for the Knicks, 19 for the 76ers. Points in the paint, Knicks outscored them 42-34. The Knicks were an absolute tear. The only pet peeve I have in this game, now he did play great and he hit the go-ahead 3, is Josh Hart. I got some film here late in the game. These are opportunities you can't miss. A minute and a half left. Wide open 3. You decide to drive, even though you've been hitting threes like no other in the playoffs, and he gets tipped away. You try a second chance. It doesn't fall through. This one, look how much space you have. You're holding the ball. Now, Jalen Brunson did get fouled here. If you make that shot, that's an and 1. And this one is the go-ahead 3 late in the game. He did end up hitting it. But you got to take these opportunities. Shoot these threes. Make these threes. That's what you have to do. The Knicks beat the 76ers in rebounding 48-46. Had more assists, 28-20. Had more blocked shots, 8-5. Had fewer turnovers. Had the same amount of steals. Had fewer fouls. The Knicks played this game very, very well at the very end. But in that first quarter, it was great. And then the second quarter, oh my God. Buddy Hield. His first 20-point game since Valentine's Day. Like, how do you let that happen? He was on fire. Campaign hit a couple nice threes late in the game as well. That's the only part that I really have a problem with. You let the 76ers get back in this game. No offensive prowess in the second quarter at all. 32-15. How do you give up a game like that? Jalen Brunson, ice cold. In that second quarter, it was horrible. Absolutely horrible. Philadelphia won an 11-0 run at the end of the first with 2 minutes. Like, it was terrible. Not only that, you open up the second quarter, you go 1 of 15. 1 of 15. And your first bucket comes with 5 minutes left in the second. Sorry, your second bucket comes with 5 minutes in the second. 1 in 15? Yeah, if you let that happen against the Pacers team, which, by the way, the game is on Monday, with Tyrese Halliburton, with Miles Turner, Obi Toppin, you let them go on a run? I'm telling you right now, the Knicks are going to have trouble. You cannot have a streak like that where you just absolutely crap the bed and let Jalen Brunson really try to take over this game when he's not having a great shooting performance. Like, he did not shoot the ball particularly well. Now, he ended up 13-27. He ended up pretty well, but he couldn't make a 3 for the life of him. He was like 1 of 6 for most of this game. He ended up with 41 points, so overall it looks great. He also had 12 assists as well. But we're talking about a Knicks team here that is very, very hot and cold. When they're hot, we saw in the first quarter, they're on fire. And then they get into these shooting slumps where all of a sudden, Tyrese Maxey hits a couple good shots late. Joel Embiid dominates down low and on the perimeter. You have Buddy Hield, who didn't really play any minutes so far, comes in and scores 17 points early. You can't let that happen because that's what will happen even on a higher level against the Pacers, who are a better offensive team. However, there is a little bit of some hope because the Knicks are a very, very good defensive team. And what they've been doing since March is only give up 104.5 points a game. And here is why it's so great that the Knicks are on such a defensive streak right now. Because when the Pacers score 111 points or less, they're 2-20. The Knicks, however, since March, they're 19-9. Like I said, they only give up 104.5 points a game. They score 110.2, and that includes the playoffs. So if you could hold the Indiana Pacers, who are like the second highest scoring team this season, to 111 points or less, easy game, easy series. Like I said, record of 2-20 this season. So I'm hopeful for the Knicks. This game, though, showed a lot of facets. Great offense early. Horrible second quarter. Couldn't get anything going. And then you had to rely on some clutch shots. Dante DiVincenzo hit a couple shots. But I have more, but I want to see what was your take on last night's game?
I thought it was a great game, very exciting, back and forth. The Knicks came out early, had a 22-point lead at one point. Sixers came back, took the lead at the end of the first half. As you mentioned, the Knicks couldn't do anything there for a long stretch. Only scored a couple of buckets there until they got down to 5 minutes left in the second quarter. I think though Brunson, in my mind, I've watched quite a bit of the playoffs so far, a bunch of different teams. I got to think he's the best player so far in the playoffs.
Over Jokic?
I think so. I really do. I mean, his third straight 40-point game, fourth straight with at least 37. Only one player has done that before him, Michael Jordan.
Okay.
Michael Jordan. That's pretty good company to be in, right? So far, I think he's the best player in the playoffs. I'd been criticizing Josh Hart a little bit for his shooting, but he's a rebounding animal.
Absolutely.
I mean, he had 14 rebounds in this game. That made a difference. He was the top rebounder for the Knicks. I mean, he's not a giant out there.
I think he's 6'6".
Yeah. I mean, he's an animal. He really I think he had 7 assists too. Yeah, he came close to a triple-double, 16 points. So he's a very important player for them.
6'4", I apologize. 6'4".
6'4", and he had 14 rebounds, and he's had 18 rebounds in one of the games before this. He's been double-digit in rebounds every game. It's really important for the Knicks. And I think that the Knicks, they played their hearts out. They only had 2 players off the bench. The bench only scored 5 points the whole game.
I was going to mention that. Yeah.
The
bench was horrible.
The bench. There is no bench really right now.
They got 2 players.
Bogdanovich he's out for the season.
Right.
That's a problem for them. That could come back to haunt them.
Absolutely.
Now. So they only have McBride and Mitchell Robinson, the only 2 people coming off the bench now. The DiVincenzo played every minute of the game.
Yep.
Everybody else averaging about the starters 43 minutes. So they're lucky they won this game because they could have been gassed for Game 7. They could have come back home and just had nothing left.
Right.
Great performance by them. Jalen Brunson, what a line in this game. 44 points. 3 rebounds, 12 assists. Every game he's had double-digit assists, too.
Yeah,
generally, a guy scoring over 40 points isn't going to have double-digit assists. He's had them every game. So I do think he's the best player so far that I've seen watching these games. The one thing I would say about the 76ers, they really were let down by Tobias Harris and Kyle Lowry. These guys didn't even score a point.
Yeah.
Come on. Kyle Lowry, what happened?
Tyrese Maxey.
2 rebounds, 3 assists, no points. Tobias Harris, 29 minutes.
Yeah, no
4
points.
rebounds, 3 assists, no points. You can't do that to your team, given that the team really only has 2 stars in Embiid and Maxey.
And Maxey
didn't play that well.
Yeah.
He had 43 minutes, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 17 points. a big come down from 46 points in the previous game, right?
Yeah, no, he went off in the previous game.
That was a game there. Those two guys not scoring any points, and Maxey only coming up with 17. And Buddy Hield coming out of nowhere for 20, but still, you got to have something from Tobias Harris. He's got a big contract.
You would hope so.
And he's a starter.
They're paying him like a legitimate
superstar, right?
Right. Well, I'll say this, though. Like, 12 of Maxey's points came in the fourth quarter. So for 3 quarters, he was doing nothing.
Yeah. Embiid, man, he is something. You know, what's his deal for now? He's with the 76ers next year, but it's a contract year for him, right? Next year? I think he has one more year, maybe 2.
Well, because we heard him. We did actually a topic on this a couple months ago.
The Sixers got to go get another player. They got to go get another player. I mean, Oubre is solid. He had 17 points, 5 rebounds, and an assist, and he's rugged. So he's a strong player. But they got to get another. They have to get a third piece. And maybe they missed James Harden a little bit in this series, right? He was good for them last year, and although he came up small in the against the Celtics at the end.
Well, he did. I think he had 240
games? The first game, they surprised the Celtics,
right.
Stole game 1, but he got in the fight with the GM lied to him apparently.
Oh yeah, Daryl Moore. That
was poisoned. He was never coming back to them. They didn't really replace his talent.
No,
right?
Not at all.
They didn't replace his talent. They have 2 great players. They need a third if they want to get deeper into the playoffs. And this is the first time they've been knocked out in the first round in quite a while. And Nick Nurse is their new coach. I'm sure he's not happy. I'm sure they're not happy with him.
No, absolutely, they're not happy. The Knicks, though, have done something in the NBA that we really haven't seen. So these are the best records when leading by 15 or more points. The Knicks are undefeated, 37-0. The Thunder number 2 at 45-1, Pacers 3, who they're playing in this next round, 40-2. Jazz are 18-1, and 76ers are 33-2. 37-0 when leading by 15 or more at any point in the game. Like, that is on a whole different level. Another thing I'll say about this, about the Knicks, hit your damn free throws, please. They're making it so much more difficult than it has to be. They average 72.9% from the free throw line. For instance, OG Anunoby averaged, I think, 51 to 57% from the free throw line. Hit your free throws. They were 16th in the league this past season. You don't hit your free throws, you had 75% in this game. This game wouldn't need to be close if you just hit simple free throws. Thank God you made them late. But OG can't hit free throws. Mitch Robinson, we know, can't hit free throws. He didn't take any in this game, but he's averaging 45% from the line. It's called free throws, free points. No one's blocking you. No one's moving. If it's your home court, nobody's even talking. And by the way, you don't jump. You don't even jump. So just hit your free throws. You mentioned the bench scoring. The first bench points came in the fourth quarter. And the bench scoring was incredible. The 76ers had 45 points off the bench compared to what you said. The Knicks had 5?
Yeah, 5 points.
Off the bench. You can't do that.
You can't do that. That's going to haunt the Knicks coming up, I think.
Absolutely, and especially because of the fact that the Pacers are such a high-scoring and high-flying team, energetic team. I mean, we have Josh Hart. He played 53. He played the entire overtime game. You have Jalen Brunson playing massive minutes. Dante DiVincenzo just played the whole game last night. Jalen Brunson had 43.5 minutes.
This is only the first round.
First round, you have guys playing massive amounts of minutes. They're going to be gassed instantly. You're going to play such a fast-paced team like the Pacers. How are you going to keep up? How are you going to keep? I don't understand.
We'll see whether this series took a toll on them. I mean, it came very close to going 7 games.
Yeah,
one shot, right? Would have tied it a 3-point difference there. They could have gone into overtime, and then what would the Knicks have done? They had their starters were out there the whole game.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to have
you look at a series 4-2. You say they beat them pretty easily 4-2, but not really. This series could have easily gone 7 games. There was only a 3-point difference there at the end. And they had some very close games along the way, and it was a hard-fought series. I think it took something out of the Knicks. We'll see.
I mean, we heard it last year. Julius Randle said about the Heat series, they just wanted more than us. This showed that the Knicks got a lot of heart because Embiid was playing very physical. Maxey was hitting low-go threes with 8 seconds left. Like, the 76ers tried their best, but somehow, even with Jalen Brunson not shooting the ball particularly well, they still stayed in this game and were able to take over the series. But you're going up against really, and then, by the way, the Pacers didn't even play that well against the Bucks, and they still end up winning in 6. If they get into a scoring streak here, and the Knicks can't stop them or just keep up with them, the Pacers have a shot.
Yeah, well, the Knicks have Anunoby. He's one of the best defensive players.
That is
He
true.
had a nice series, right? In this game, he had
didn't
19
shoot very well.
19 points.
No, like we're talking
9 rebounds, and he's a great defensive
can't make
player.
free throws. He averages barely above 50% from the charity stripe. You got to hit free throws. By the way, to answer your question, he's got 2 years left, which includes a player option.
Okay.
Will he take it? That's a big question.
Well, I think they need to add a player. And I'm sure he's disappointed he's knocked out in the first round.
Yeah.
And they were a little unlucky with him being hurt for so long during the year. And coming back late, he had some rust. And he said he was only about 70%. But it's hard to say a player's 70% when he's scoring 40 points a game and playing the way he played. He had one game with 50. Come on. Are you really only 70%? I don't think so.
I think Lakers fans wish AD had this same mentality. You're not 100%, yet you can still drop 50 points in a playoff game. It's not something that they've seen for a while. All right, we're going to take a break, but coming up, Saquon Barkley takes a shot at the Giants for apparently not giving him an offer for this offseason to try to rejoin the Giants, as well as the Celtics close out their series in 5 games against the Miami Heat. We'll talk about that right after this.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the content.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance. And why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. It's great to have you in on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of today's show. So, Saquon Barkley responded to a fan after getting criticized for him going to the 76ers Knicks game, and this was the exchange. It's been 2 months, LOL. No way y'all can still be mad. MF can't even go to a basketball game. That was Saquon Barkley, followed up by @JPK Mets saying, "You bailed on New York, sow the wind, reap the whirlwind." And then Saquon responds with this: "Let me educate some of you fans here. I can't bail or become a traitor if I never got an offer to come back. So I went to the organization I felt that was the best, and after already being here for a month, man, I'm excited to be an Eagle. Go Birds." I think the Giants are about to make a massive mistake, but that's actually the question I have for you. Will the Giants regret not giving Saquon a contract offer for the 2024-2025 season?
Oh, yeah. They're going to regret it. And they're going to even feel the pain twice a year when Saquon Barkley comes in there and runs for over 100 yards, 2 games, and catches a bunch of passes.
Wow.
And they beat the Giants. And they're not going to be that tough to beat the Giants this year because they're not going to be – I don't think they're going to be much of a team. They did show some confidence in Daniel Jones by drafting Neighbors as their first-round pick, outstanding wide receiver, probably going to be one of the best out there once he gets a little experience. So I think that they're going to wish they had signed him, particularly when they didn't really replace him with anyone too great, right?
Devin Singletary.
Devin Singletary, who is I'd say a little beyond his prime right now and never really had any years that were that outstanding. He was pretty good with Buffalo for a while. So, he never got an offer. I find that hard to believe. And the way they treated him, he was had the franchise tag there for a while. They said they're going to franchise tag him. He took a contract for 1 year for $10 million, almost $10.1 million, with almost $1 million in incentives. That was 2023, right? For this season, he wound up with 962 yards, 6 TDs, 41 passes for 280 yards, 4 TDs. So he had 10 touchdowns. He was their most productive offensive player by far, and he missed 3 games. So he's still got it. He's still got it in the tank. I mean, when he first started, 2018, he had one of the best years any rookie ever had, right? 1,307 yards, 11 TDs, 91 passes caught for 721 yards for 4 TDs. So he had 15 touchdowns and 2,000 total yards. He made the Pro Bowl Offensive Rookie of the Year. He had a fantastic season. Unfortunately, the next 3 years, he was hurt. He never really played that well in the next 3 years because of the injuries. And then in 2022, he bounced right back, 1,300 yards, 10 TDs, made the Pro Bowl, right? And last year, he fell off a little bit, but again, he had a little bit of injuries. I think the guy's still got a lot going for him, and the Eagles recognized that, gave him 3 years, $37.75 million deal. And he's at the basketball game rooting for Philadelphia. So good luck, Saquon. I'm rooting for you. I think that the Giants are going to really regret it.
I think 100% they're going to regret it because they didn't even really try to fill in his role with the same level type of running back. Devin Singletary ain't nothing too special. He had an okay season with Houston last year and a couple okay seasons with Buffalo. But think about this. The Giants really got nobody. So let's say Devin Singletary, you give him 15 carries. You're going to put in another back eventually. The next one into that chart is Eric Gray, then Tyron Tracy Jr., then Gary Brightwell. You don't have depth whatsoever. Like, for instance, one of the teams like the Miami Dolphins, who we're going to talk about later on in the show, is they got a couple very good backs to nice backs. You got Devin Achane, Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, who was pretty good with the 49ers when he got his time to shine. The entire Giants offense, the offensive line is improving slightly, but just the entire offense is not really that good. Malik Neighbors from day one will be your wide receiver one. He's better than Slayton. He's better than Wan'Dale Robinson, Hyatt, McKenzie, whoever you want to say. He's better than all of them from day one. Devin Singletary's your running back. Your offensive line's improving. Darren Waller is still contemplating retirement. And then you have your quarterback who's going to be throwing them the football, Daniel Jones. The biggest mistake the Giants will make, will have made, is giving Daniel Jones that 4-year contract. And we've talked about this ad nauseum. That is a massive mistake because this is why the franchise tag is made, for reasons like Daniel Jones, so you're not stuck with a bad player for an extended period of time. Give him a franchise tag. Now think about this. The Giants picked 6. Let's say Daniel Jones does the same thing he did this year, and they drafted a quarterback. You would have the opportunity to get Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, or Bo Nix. You don't think J.J. McCarthy could have done something here? You don't think any other quarterback could be okay with this system?
I think J.J. McCarthy might have struggled in the
J.J. McCarthy, Giants. Maybe. I'll give you that, maybe.
Because he's always played with elite players around him, coming through high school, the academy there that he played at, and then college, and coming on the Giants. It's going to be a struggle.
Right.
You got Neighbors, who's going to be, as I said, I think he'll be great, but he's a rookie. And the offensive line is still very much a question mark. They don't have much at running back, and I just think that they're going to be heavily relying on the quarterback. McCarthy, somebody who was a game manager for sure. We don't know much about how he's going to do when he has to throw the ball 30, 35 times a game when he only threw it on average of 17 in college. So I think he would have struggled with them.
I would definitely say McCarthy just because he wasn't relied on at Michigan. But the way that the Giants are built, it's very heavily on defense. We're talking about Dexter Lawrence, Raheem Nunez-Roches, Brian Burns, Bobby Okereke, Kayvon Thibodeau, Jalen Mills, Deonte Banks. Very heavily on the defensive side. So we're talking about, as long as Daniel Jones doesn't throw 4 interceptions, they're trying to go for like a 7-3 win.
Maybe like the Patriots.
10-6 win, something like that. That's basically
Well,
what
it
they're going
went
to try
very
to
well
do.
for the Patriots last year. They won 4 games.
As long as there's no self-inflicting wounds like Mac Jones did last season, and partially Bailey Zappi. I mean, we saw Daniel Jones regress severely, but I think you would give him a Malik Neighbors, which the Patriots didn't do for Mac Jones. You give him a true wide receiver one, I think that'll help you a little bit. But this team is still god-awful. I'm picking them still last in the division. Absolutely. And we're talking about a potential opportunity, the Giants drafting a Shedeur Sanders, a Quinn Ewers, or if you decide to skip a year, keep it in the family. Go Arch Manning in 2026. That's something you could do. Now, my guess will be you're probably going to get off Daniel Jones in this season because it makes the most sense contractually, unless he has a phenomenal year. Then you'd be like, okay, he had an okay season.
Well, Drew Lock will probably get a chance, right?
Probably.
They told him he'd have a chance to compete,
Supposedly,
and they didn't
yeah.
draft a quarterback, so they're going to give him a chance if Daniel Jones comes up small.
I think that's what we're expecting because also Daniel Jones has an injury guarantee, and if he does get hurt, the entirety of his contract next season is fully guaranteed. So you do not want him to get hurt. So we're going to see exactly what we've seen for the past 2 seasons with Derek Carr getting benched the last 2 games, Russell Wilson getting benched the last 2 games. Not necessarily based off performance, but because of contractual obligations or contractual pieces that say, hey, if you get hurt, we're going to owe you a bunch of money. And I think at the Giants at this stage, that's not what they want to do. And I think Brian Daboll's coaching for his job. I think that Daniel Jones, his job is basically done with. I think he knows that. They got Drew Lock in to maybe start the last 3 games if need be. But Brian Daboll, I think, is on the hot seat just circumstantial. I think he's a good coach.
I think he's on the hot seat.
I think he's still a good coach because he refined Josh Allen's
It's a little
game.
crazy as a head coach.
Well,
I think he's
if
a
you have
good
Daniel
coach.
Jones-
He goes
if Daniel
nuts on the
Jones your quarterback,
sidelines.
I would
I
also
worry
be
about
going
that
crazy.
guy. I worry about that guy. He's very heavy. It's going to have a heart attack over there on the sidelines.
Wasn't Rex Ryan
He's going nuts.
Wasn't Rex Ryan very vocal and animated?
Well, he lost weight after his first year, but Brian Daboll, man, tone it down, big guy.
Well, I mean, if you have Daniel Jones as your quarterback, I would also be, very hot-headed as well. And there was a moment, Seahawks, Devin Witherspoon got a 99-yard pick 6 off Daniel Jones, and Brian Daboll was not a happy guy, especially in the face of Daniel Jones too. So, yeah, I think the fact that the Giants never even offered Saquon Barkley a contract and then decided to sign a 3-year, $12.5 million contract with Philadelphia, the arch rival of the Giants.
$37.75 million.
Well, 3 years, 12.5 over 3 years. I think
12.5 average.
Right, per year. I think that it's embarrassing. It's very, very embarrassing for Joe Shane to not bring this really to the table. Yes, was he when he was asking for $15 million or 16, whatever the number was, 14 to 60 million? Was that a little bit ridiculous? Yeah, but also is franchise tagging the wrong player. So I think, like you said, this is going to come back to bite him. I expect Saquon, especially behind that offensive line, which is top 3, if not top 2. Some people, I'm sure, would have them number 1 in the NFL. We saw Swift have a pretty good year. I think we're going to see a phenomenal season from Saquon as long as he stays healthy.
Right.
Staying
healthy.
Behind that offensive line, he should be relatively healthy.
Yeah.
The Giants' offensive line was a sieve.
And catch the ball out of the backfield, too.
Correct. So I think, I agree with you. Saquon's going to
He's
absolutely
only 27 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm
at least,
completely agree.
I think that's a good contract for the Eagles. He'll be 30 years old at the end of that contract. We'll see if he has any gas left in the tank then, but he should have 3 good years if he stay healthy, as you say.
Yeah. So Saquon Barkley, Giants, the schedule should be coming out in a couple weeks or so, I'm pretty sure. So we'll see. Highlight the dates on the calendar for Giants and Eagles. Should be fun to watch. All right, let's get into our next topic of today's show. So, it came out. We've been waiting for this guy. Odell Beckham signed a contract with let's talk about the Celtics now. The Celtics closed out the series in Game 5 against the Miami Heat. 118-84. Celtics lit up the entire court. They make it to the Eastern Conference semifinals for the 3rd straight year, as we should be expecting from a team of the Celtics caliber. I want to know, how confident are you that the Celtics will make the NBA Finals after seeing what they did to the Miami Heat in round 1?
I don't know about the finals. I think they're They're probably going to be Knicks. A good chance it'll be Knicks Celtics in the Eastern Division Final, and we'll have to wait and see. But before we get to that, just a few comments about this game. And last year, we'll remember the Atlanta series, Game 5 at home. They lost. Had to go to Atlanta and win Game 6 to win the series. So I think this is maybe a maturity and growth statement by the Celtics that, hey, we know we got to win. They came out and dominated. So I thought that was important. That was a positive. They did it without Porzingis. Looks like he's going to be out this the semifinal round. He's not even going to play. They're going to have to step up with Horford and Cornette, who had nice games last night. Horford, 8 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal. And Cornette off the bench, plus 21 in 18 minutes. And he's going to be the first big off the bench. So he played against Bam Adebayo very well. So he's going to be looked to for his defense to step in there and give Horford a rest until they can limp along and get Porzingis back, hopefully for the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm sure they're rooting for the Magic to win tonight so that they will go to a 7th game, and then who knows who's going to win that. I picked Cleveland to get through this round, but I'm sure they want it to go 7 games to give Porzingis a little more time to recover. You look at last night's game.
This is Wednesday's game, by the way. Wednesday's
I'm sorry, Wednesday's game. You look at Derek White again, 25 points, right?
Yeah.
5 rebounds, 2 assists. You look at Jaylen Brown, 25 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. Jason Tatum, I mean, he kind of isn't really knocked the lights out here shooting the ball in this series, right? He only had 16 points, but he did have 12 rebounds and 3 assists. Very balanced scoring. An army of people playing because they got so far ahead. Sam Hauser, 17 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist. And everybody played there at the end. So the game was over pretty much at the end of the first half. Although the Heat did outscore them to 30-20 in the third quarter. I think the Heat, without Jimmy Butler, there was no way they were going to win this series. Even though last year they lost Tyler Hero, and they still made it to the finals. Hero came up pretty small in this series, I thought, when they were really leaning on him. He only had 15 points the other night. Bam Adebayo, he's consistent, a very good player, but he's the only guy out there, really, the only superstar. When Jimmy Butler's not out there, makes it hard on Bam, 23 points. Caleb Martin came up small in the series. He only had 10 points last night. I mentioned Tyler Hero. Nobody else in double figures. I'm sorry. Thomas Bryant had 10 points. I don't even know who he is. So I think the Heat, they're going to have to go out and get another player in the offseason. Hang on to Bam, hang on to Jimmy Butler. I don't know, maybe Tyler Hero's trade bait. They tried to trade him last year unsuccessfully to get Lillard. That really hurt him not getting Lillard, right? If they'd had him and Jimmy Butler had stayed healthy for the playoffs, would have made it much harder on the Celtics. Maybe they wouldn't have been the 8th seed.
I mean, we see even though Jimmy Butler was out there last season, they were still the 8th seed. So I just think the Heat right now, the way that they're built, undrafted guys, not really high talented guys, old guys like Patty Mills, Kevin Love, they're not a really high-scoring team. In this NBA, you got to score a lot of points. The top teams in the NBA, the Celtics, I mean, they're just good all around. But this game was an absolute showdown when it comes to just the Celtics performing very, very well. They out-rebounded the Heat 56-29. That's a ratio you don't really see in today's NBA, especially when it comes to the playoffs. The Celtics had more assists, fewer fouls, more steals. They did have more than double the Heat's turnovers, but it didn't really matter. They had more blocked shots. I mean, the Celtics were all over the place. Jason Tatum, 16 points, 12 boards. Jaylen Brown, 25 points. Derek White, like you mentioned, 25 points. He shot 5 of 10. Sam Hauser, congratulations. You did a great job off the bench with 17 points. You made 5 3-pointers as well. We also got a surprisingly good performance from Luke Cornett. I mean, they literally used all players but 2 coming off the bench. Xavier Tillman, Brissett, Springer. I mean, you got a lot of players the Celtics have. They're relatively deep, but they don't need to use that depth because, hey, first of all, it's a playoff game. The second thing is, though, it's normally close. You're not going to go deep into your bench when it's close. When you're beating a team and you go up all the way by 37 points at one point, yeah, you could go a little bit deep into your bench. Now, I think a lot of people say, what if Jimmy Butler was out there? What about Jaime Jaquez? What about Terry Rozier? I don't think it would have made a difference. This Celtics team just seems a little bit different than previous years. Now, you brought it up in last show. The loss of Kristaps Porzingis, well, I think it's going to be pretty significant. Maybe not now, although I think if the Magic win, it could be a problem because the Magic did give Celtics some problems with their defense. In Cleveland, I think a lot of people are not that nervous about who the Celtics play next because we saw them beat the crap out of the Heat. After they lost the Heat last year and looked horrible in the first 3 games, down 0-3. I'm actually a little bit nervous about this next round. I don't care who it's against, Magic or Cavs. I'm nervous because we saw the Cavs shock the Celtics a couple times, and we saw the Magic give the Celtics some serious trouble. So you're going into a series where, yes, you just beat, I would say, your arch rivals in the Miami Heat. And by the way, every year for the past 4, it's been on-off for the Celtics. Lose 1 year, win the next year. Lose 1 year, now win the next year. I think I'm a little bit nervous. I was nervous about going into the series, but I still picked the Celtics in 5. And then game 2, when they shot 23 3-pointers. And by the way, I think the number was they only made 22 the rest of the series. They shot 3 of 29 from 3-pointer. I mean, that is horrible. 10.3%.
I think that a difference for the Celtics this year that's a positive for them and can play well for them, particularly if they play the Knicks in the finals for the Eastern Conference. They got a deep team. They got a very deep team, and they played these guys all year long. They had a rotation that included 8-9 players. Sam Hauser, great 3-point shooter. Luke Cornett, great defensive player. Peyton Pritchard, very good point guard, right? In addition to Derek White, Drew Holiday, Al Horford off the bench. A very good center. They're getting up there in age, but he had some rest this year because Porzingis was playing. They have Porzingis, so hopefully he can get healthy. They're going to need him if they get when they get to the Eastern Conference Finals. He'll have time to rest here. Brown and Tatum are superstars, so the Celtics are very deep, and that will be tough if they face the Knicks. It'll be tough for the Knicks if they face them in the Eastern Conference Finals because the Knicks got nobody off the bench.
They played 2 guys off the bench in a pivotal Game 6 matchup. 2 guys.
How can they let that happen? How could that happen?
Because you don't trust Precious Achiuwa and you don't trust Alec Burks. I don't think Alec Burks played a single minute in this entire series.
I don't know why Achiuwa couldn't play. Why wouldn't they let him play a little bit?
It's a close game, smaller forward. I don't think
they're going to have to get those guys in the rotation if they're going to wind up against the Celtics because they'll just run out of gas.
I would agree with you there. And I think the Celtics, though, I'll still say this. We saw what the Cavs did to them recently. During the regular season, towards the end, they were up by, I think, 20 in the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden, they lose. How do you let that happen? The Magic. We have Paolo Banchero, Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner. They have 3 very, very good players. The Celtics are going to need to stay consistent. Besides Game 2, they were relatively consistent, dominant. If we're going to bring another term into this, the same problem with the Knicks though. They're very, very lucky that the Heat did not shoot well from 3 and the Celtics shot 40%. Because when you shoot 66% from the free throw line, I got a problem with that. Like I said earlier in the show, it's called free throws. Nobody moves. Nobody's jumping in your face. If it's your home court, nobody's chanting. Everybody's quiet. Make your free throws, please. Please make your free throws. I mean, we're talking about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Each missed 3 free throws. Free throws, please. That's my big thing. Free throws.
Yeah. Wow.
Make them.
They make a difference in a game, that's for sure.
If the game is
Games
close,
are won and lost on the free throw line, they say.
I mean, if this game was close and you're missing 6 free throws from your top 2 players, I'd be nervous. Thank God the Knicks at the end of their game, they were hitting the free throws. Dante DiVincenzo shot very well from the free throw line. But if OG got fouled, that's a 51% free throw shooter. Not great. So I think going to this next series, the Celtics should be as dominant as ever because, like you brought up in the last show,
well, they won't have Porzingis,
right? But the trends, like with or without Porzingis, it's basically the same. So if that really is the case,
I don't know.
Well, I mean, you talk about their record. Do we have it here? What their record is without Porzingis?
21-4.
21-4. Right.
Well,
So,
now 22-5.
Right.
22-4 now.
But I will say this: Porzingis, second in offensive rating for the Celtics, first in defensive rating, tied for first in box plus minus, first in player efficiency rating, first in true shooting percentage. If the game gets
tough to
tight,
lose him.
It is massively tough. And think about this though: Giannis has the same injury. He was out for an entire series, and we don't know how long. If the Bucks did move on, how long it would have kept him out for round 2. He missed all of round 1. So if let's say he's out for half of round 3, the Eastern Conference Finals, could the Knicks or could the Pacers give the Celtics some serious trouble, make them go down 1-2? That could be a serious possibility. And that's what I'm a little bit nervous about. But round 2, people are saying it's another brush-off game. I'm playing the cautious game.
You know what? I would never say that, and I hope that the Celtics coaching staff is telling them, look, you can't get complacent here. You could easily have game 1 stolen from you, lose the home court advantage, and wind up being a very tough series. We'll put a lot. If it has to go 6 or 7, and it's a lot of effort that we wouldn't have had to expend if we really came out with the killer instinct. So we'll see.
We will see. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but coming up, like I mentioned, Odell Beckham signed with the Miami Dolphins. What impact will he have on an already high-flying and high-scoring offense? We'll talk about that right after this.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. Great to have you in on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of today's show. So Odell Beckham has signed with an AFC East team, the Miami Dolphins. He signs a 1-year, $3 million contract, which can get up to $8.25 million with incentives. $5.25 million that's pretty crazy. The amount of incentives, but it is a baseline contract of 1 year and $3 million. He joins a wide receiver core of Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Braxton Berrios. Now, Braxton Berrios, just throwing the name out there because he used to be wide receiver 3, but now Odell will replace him on the depth chart and take over as wide receiver 3 behind Waddle and Tyreek Hill.
Jonnu Smith at tight end.
Jonnu Smith tight end.
One of your favorite players.
I think he was underused and the Patriots did not know how to use him during his time there. But I want to know, how big of an impact do you think Odell will have on his brand new team, the Miami Dolphins?
Here's a guy who's fallen a long way in a short period of time, right? He was a fantastic receiver in his first 3 seasons, 4,122 yards. Third most in NFL history, but then he started getting hurt, and he had an ACL, and then another one in 2022. Missed the whole season. Only had 1,400 yards receiving since 2020. Didn't really do much with the Ravens, although the Ravens are a very run-oriented team. 565 yards, 35 catches, but 27 first downs on those 35 catches. So that was. Right up there. It was number 1 for any player with under 35 catches in terms of the number of first downs. So he can make a play. He was eighth most in the NFL in the yards per catch too. So that was good, and that will serve him well with the Dolphins, who like to throw the ball down the field. But he's only getting $3 million, and he had 15. The contract last year was for $15 million. So there wasn't much demand for him out there. He lands with a fantastic team. I mean, when you look at their receiver core now, Waddle, Hill, and Beckham, and Jonnu Smith at tight end, I think that you got to say they've got one of the top receiver cores out there. And I think it will be good for the Dolphins because they didn't really have anybody behind Hill and Waddle in the last couple of seasons. Nobody had more than 32 catches in either of the past 2 seasons. So they should be able to get that much mileage out of Odell Beckham, and he's going to have it a little easier out there when Waddle and Hill are out there as well. He shouldn't get the kind of coverage that will make it tougher for him to catch the ball. So I think it's a great pickup for the Dolphins. They get him for $3 million. If he turns out to be a bust, it's not that expensive. And who knows? Maybe he's going to be working hard to try to earn all that incentive money, which is big. I don't know what he has to do to get it, but
it's probably yards, catches,
yeah,
how far they go.
They're going to be spreading them. It's going to be tough for him to get a lot of yards when you got Waddle and Hill out there.
Absolutely, and that's where I think he won't have as big of an impact as we thought he would. Because what did we see when he was, one of the top receivers for the Baltimore Ravens? He didn't do so well. And then in the playoff game, as you mentioned when we talked about it,
he didn't show up until near the end.
Yeah, second half or fourth quarter, that's when he really came to shine. He had 565 yards and 3 touchdowns in 14 games. He started 6 of them. The previous year, didn't even play. The year before that, he had 537 yards and 5 touchdowns. Most of that production, all of the touchdowns, came from his time with the Rams.
With the Rams when they picked him
up.
They
won a Super Bowl when he was with them.
He was having a fantastic game until he got hurt.
Right, like we're talking about potential Super Bowl MVP type of a performance.
Yeah, he had a touchdown there, and then he hurt his knee.
Yeah. His last 1,000-yard season came all the way back in 2019 for the Cleveland Browns. So it's been a while since he had a legitimate impact. Now he has to compete with catches and targets and all of that, with Tyreek Hill trying to go for 2,000 yards, Jalen Waddle, very, very good speedy receiver, and you also have to compete with one of the best balanced offenses. Achane had a very, very good year. We're talking about a guy who rushed for over, I believe he rushed for over 200 yards. We also, in a single game, Raheem Mostert, very, very good back.
Now, they're loaded on offense. They're loaded.
And also, we have to take into account about this big factor. Your quarterback sucks in cold weather. He does not have a single win when the temperature drops below 45 degrees. He can't play in cold weather.
Yeah, well, they need to hand the ball off then when it's cold because they got the running backs and can get the yards.
Like we're talking about, check this out. 6-game sample size. Tua is 57% completion percentage, 1,500 yards, 87 touchdowns to 11 picks. That's not terrible. Passer rating of 67.6. Like, that is god-awful. So, yes, not only will you be competing for catches and targets and touchdowns and whatnot with the 2 top receivers on your team, as well as just getting, regular yards with your running backs as well, your quarterback, God forbid it drops a little bit below 45 degrees, becomes one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. And you know what? You know when that happens? When it hits about, December, sometimes November, depending on where you are, January, and the big thing called the Super Bowl if you do make it. Which, based on the numbers, Tua won't make it because he's horrible in cold weather. Yeah,
well, that's a good point. And they play in the warmest weather in Miami. And to make it to the Super Bowl, you're probably heading to Kansas City, and that's cold out there. And so, or to Buffalo, that's cold, right? You're going to play in a cold weather game in the playoffs somewhere along the line there.
Absolutely.
So you got to figure that out.
Not only that,
maybe you need some insulated underwear or something to warm him up.
That ain't going to matter. I will give Tua this, though. He does have basically a 73% winning percentage when the temperature is over 45 degrees. So there's a very fine line between horrible and pretty good. And 45. It's that 45 degrees. So as long as Odell plays with Tua in warmer than 45 degree weather, the production should be pretty good. And also, we saw last year, the Dolphins are kind of frauds without Tyreek Hill, out of his mind. Will Odell help with that instead of Braxton Berrios as a wide receiver 3 and also Jonnu Smith as the tight end? You don't like Jonnu Smith.
I don't.
You thought he was just terrible with the Patriots.
He was.
I think the Patriots didn't know how to use him.
He made so many mistakes.
He made a couple nice plays.
He cost them big time. Several games. I don't like him. We'll see how he does against the Dolphins.
I'll say this, though. Last time we saw Odell paired up with Jalen Ramsey, they won the Super Bowl. So there is that going for him. But I don't think he'll have a massive impact. We're talking about a guy, 500 yards the past couple seasons. One season in the past 3 he didn't even play. It's been since 2019 since he had his last 1,000-yard season. I'm just saying, you know what? I'm not believing, he's all of a sudden going to become old Odell again. In fact, I think we'd be pretty stupid to think that, just because when have we seen it? We haven't seen anything even close to resembling old Odell. So I think, it's a great pickup to fill in a spot you don't necessarily need, because you have 2 really good receivers, although injuries could be a concern. You get Odell, and you know what? That could solve that problem if need be. Didn't have a massive impact for the Ravens. I don't think he'll have a massive impact for the Miami Dolphins. All right, let's get into sort of like a side topic here. So currently, the Cleveland Cavaliers are playing the Orlando Magic. The score is 25-19, as well as the Dallas Mavericks playing the Magic are up by 6. And then tonight, after that game, both these games are on ESPN, by the way. After the Cleveland and Orlando game, the Dallas Mavericks will play the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, because of just the way the show is constructed and basically how the NBA schedule has panned out for the playoffs, we will not have a show when round 2 of the NBA playoffs commences, especially because we're still with some of these series could go to 7 games basically. So this is how the current Eastern Conference looks, with the Celtics winning in 5, the Pacers winning in 6, and the Knicks winning in 6. So let's begin with the Eastern Conference. You have the Celtics winning in 7 games. You have the Cavaliers winning in 7 games over the Magic. So doesn't matter really who, or if it does. If the Cavs make it, do they have a shot?
No.
At being so how about this? If the Magic make it, do they have a shot?
No.
So, okay, does the amount of games the Celtics win in changes if the Cavs or the Magic win?
I might go 6.
Might go 6 instead. If the Cavaliers win, the Celtics win in how many? Basically, who you have winning the next round?
I'm going to go 6 on this one. I think it gets tougher as you get deeper into the playoffs, so it's possible that there's a team that could beat the Celtics 2 times. They aren't going to have Porzingis there. You rattled off all his stats. He'd had a fantastic season. There was a big question mark about whether he would hold up well in the playoffs, and here he is out hurt in the first round. So I think that's a little bit of a question mark. But the way the Celtics, their depth and the way Derek White is playing, I think they're a little surprised at how consistently he's been scoring over 20 points. And they have the deep bench. So I got the Celtics. Maybe it could be 5, but I'm going to say 6 to be on the safe side.
I think, and I have the Magic in 7 games. So I'm hoping the Magic able to pull out this. They're still by 6, 27-21. I think it will matter if the Cavs win, but because based on my bracket here of having the Magic in 7, I'm going Celtics win in 6 games.
Okay.
If the Cavs win, I'm going Celtics in 7. I do think the Cavs give them a little bit more of trouble. So I would say the Celtics might lose and then send the series to 7 games, but I do think the Celtics still move on. All right, what about this one? The Pacers able to get a massive win over the Bucks to seal that series in 6 games, while the New York Knicks able to win in 6 games against the Philadelphia 76ers. I got the Knicks 100% right. I said Knicks in 6. However, I thought the Bucks would give them a little bit more trouble. I had Pacers in 7. Still got the Pacers to win. You had the Bucks to win in, what was it, 7 games, if I'm not mistaken? What'd you have for...
I had the Bucks in 7.
Bucks in 7 and Knicks in 6?
Knicks in 7.
Knicks in 7, okay. So...
Came very close, that 3-point difference there. We've gone to a 7th game.
It is massive, but I want to know, Knicks-Pacers starts on Monday. Who do you have winning this series between Indiana and New York?
I got the Knicks.
How many games?
I think that will be 6, too.
6. I'm going Knicks in 7 because I do think the bench will be a massive problem. You play 2 of your bench players if you're the New York Knicks compared to a relatively deep Indiana team. I think it's going to be very, very difficult. You will get gassed late, just like Joel Embiid did. Joel Embiid looked gassed in games 4, 5, and 6, excuse me. But like I mentioned earlier on in the show, the magic number is 111. If the Knicks hold the Pacers to 111 points, there are 2-20 this season. Now, here's the fortunate part about that. The Knicks since March are only giving up 104.5 points, and they're scoring 110.2. And in that span, they're 19-9. 111. I'm going Knicks in 7. That bench, you got to start playing Alec Burks. You got to start playing Precious Achiuwa. Your bench is the only answer to keep Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo. It's the only shot they're going to have of you actually making a legitimate deep playoff run. Because we saw Jalen Brunson get to these shooting slumps. 1 in 15 until 5 minutes in the second quarter. You can't let that happen against this team. So I'm going Knicks in 7. All right, let's go to the Western Conference. This is the outlook now. Thunder were able to sweep the New Orleans Pelicans, while like I mentioned before, the Clippers and Mavericks play tonight at 9:30 on ESPN. That series right now is 3-2 in favor of Dallas, I believe, as well as the Timberwolves getting a sweep over the Phoenix Suns and the Nuggets gentlemen sweeping the Los Angeles Lakers. Let's begin the Western Conference with the number 1 seed. You had the Clippers, I believe, winning in how many games?
7.
7 games. I had the Mavericks in 7. So the Thunder, does it change? If the Clippers win, let's follow your bracket. If the Clippers win, what do you have the Thunder beating them by? I assume you have the Thunder winning.
Thunder in 7.
Thunder in 7. If the Mavericks win, does that change the amount of games the Thunder, or does that change who wins?
No, I don't think so. The Clippers-Mavericks game is pretty well balanced there. It's been a pretty interesting series so far. As the game is tonight, I think I might stay up and watch it.
No, it should be a very, very fascinating series. I'm going to stick with my bracket. I got the Mavericks in 7. I still believe that. Mavericks going strong. Luka, Kyrie. I have faith in them. I don't think it matters whatsoever. I'll still go Thunder in 6. The Mavericks stop against a very, very young and explosive Oklahoma City Thunder team. All right, let's go to the next stage of the bracket. I had the reverse of this, so this is kind of an embarrassing pick for me. I had the Suns sweeping the Minnesota Timberwolves because I believe they were undefeated against the Timberwolves in the regular season. That turned out not to be the case. The Timberwolves absolutely, gave them hell, able to sweep the Suns. And then the Nuggets, like I mentioned, gentlemen sweep the Los Angeles Lakers. I got that 100% as well. Nuggets in 5. You had the Timberwolves winning in 6. 6 games. I had this, like I said, I had the Suns sweeping. I want to know, who do you have winning this series and how many games?
I got the Nuggets. I think they do it in 6.
Nuggets in 6. I'll go Nuggets in 5. Timberwolves, very, very good defensive team. Second best defensive team in the NBA. But I just think Nuggets, Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., they're just a different team in the playoffs. It's like the Chiefs. It's like the Patriots. They're really good in the regular season. Then when it comes to the biggest moments in the biggest sort of sections of the playoffs, when it's late in the game, Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic just have a different they have a different mode they switch to. I'll take Nuggets in another gentleman sweep in 5.
Yeah, I think the Timberwolves pretty exciting team.
Absolutely,
and to beat the Suns in 4 straight, given the Suns starting lineup, the Suns have no bench. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And they didn't play. Bradley Beal came up pretty small too, so. But that's impressive for the Timberwolves to knock them off 4 straight. If there was going to be a huge surprise in these playoffs, it would be the Timberwolves beating the Nuggets. I don't think it's going to happen. But Towns could match up pretty well against Jokic, And
I think Gobert would probably take that matchup.
Yeah, and how about Anthony Edwards?
He's probably, we're talking about an American face of the NBA.
He's the X Factor.
He's probably
the X Factor in this series. If he has another series like he had in the first one, it could be close.
I think the only way the Timberwolves have a shot is if Anthony Edwards goes off for X amount of games. He would need to go off for 4 games in order for the Timberwolves to do this. And we also could see a Karl Anthony Towns tremendous offensive game. I think Rudy Gobert will try his very best at trying to shut down Nikola Jokic, but you really can't. You really can't. And I think Michael Porter Jr., the guy's averaging, 40% from 3. Aaron Gordon, who's matching up against Ant Edwards? Because Aaron Gordon, size, defensive ability, he was an okay matchup against LeBron James. I don't think he can keep up with Anthony Edwards' pace, his speed. I don't think he'll do a great job. I could be completely wrong, but I just think Anthony Edwards, he's on an entirely different level when it comes to just the amount of youth and the amount of talent he has. He's a very, very special player. So, like I said, I just think the Nuggets are different. I really do. I think the Nuggets are a completely different team in the playoffs. 2 gentlemen sweeps in a row. I think they have another shot at repeating as champions. A pretty good shot at repeating as champions.
I do too.
All right, that does wrap up today's episode of the Harvey Hour. An update at the end of the first quarter. Orlando Magic 29, Cleveland Cavaliers 25. So we'll have to wait and see who takes home the crown. If it does end, the Cavaliers would need to win this game in order for them to win in 6 games. Otherwise, going to a Game 7, which I'm hoping, because I do have the Orlando Magic winning. And then, of course, like I mentioned, Clippers Mavericks at 9:30 on ESPN. Wait for that game tonight. But for this episode of the Harvey Hour, my name is Nathan Harvey. That's been Stephen Harvey. We are your hosts of the Harvey Hour. Catch us Tuesday we get Knicks Pacers Game 1 to recap. That's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, we'll see you Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Good night, Grandpa.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.